Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Hi, this is Wang with Constellation Research. We're here with a special analysis with our partners, Digital Clarity Group, on Marketo and their $1.8 billion acquisition of Vista. I'm Wang. I'm going to introduce our other analysts and speakers here in terms of what's going on today. So I'm going to first introduce Cindy Zhou. She's a VP and Principal Analyst here at Constellation Research. Cindy, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Cool. And I'm going to introduce our partners, Digital Clarity Group. We work with them. Constellation and Digital Clarity Group formed a partnership about 1.5 years ago, and it's really to address areas where we overlap on coverage areas and expand other areas. And with me are the two co-founders, Liewehr and Cathy McKnight. Scott, go ahead.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And Cathy, why don't you?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Cathy McKnight. Happy to be here.
Very cool. So we're going to talk about 6 things: the terms of the deal, the impact to customers, the future roadmap with Vista's ownership, talent retention concerns, and what competitors can expect. For those of you following on GoToMeeting, you can add a question at any point in time. We also have a poll that we'll be running towards the end of the webinar. But with that, let's have Cathy set the stage for the terms of the deal. What in the world is going on? Why Vista? Why Marketo? What's happening? So, Cathy, all yours.
Great. Thanks, Ray. Yeah, so in this deal, Vista Equity Partners, or Vista, who are a leading private equity firm really focused on investments in software, data, and technology-enabled businesses, entered into an agreement to acquire all outstanding shares of Marketo common stock for the 1.79, rounded up $1.8 billion. So out of this deal, Marketo shareholders will receive $35.25 per share, which is a 64% premium over the May 9 closing. Now, I mean, the price of the stock had continually climbed as rumors of the acquisition was impending over the month of May, where it was hovering around the $30 mark towards the end of the month. So far, interestingly, there's no details on any debt financing being involved. But other than that, that's the I's and the T's of it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so let's start with the customer piece. I think that's a very important piece. Cindy, and tell us a little bit about your history with Marketo, and talk us a little about the impact to customers. We'll then go to Cindy, and then we'll go to Scott, and then maybe I'll have something left to say that might be insightful, given the 3 of you guys have gone first. So, all right, Cindy, start with you.
Thanks so much, Ray. And just for the audience's background knowledge and myself, I actually just joined Constellation Research yesterday officially, and I've actually been a Marketo customer for about 5 years total across 2 different companies. So I was previously at Taurus, which was acquired by IBM, and we were a Marketo customer. And then I actually just recently left a back office associate, the data management company, also private equity held, and we were a long-term Marketo customer. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there, that I was one of you if you are a Marketo customer. So from an impact to customer perspective, Ray, really from the way I see it is that, Vista has a very interesting and very public track record around delivering shareholder value. They're very proud to claim that they can deliver over 30+% of shareholder value. But a lot of that comes at the expense of the company. So they're very much EBITDA focused, very much focused on the bottom line, cost reduction, et cetera. So from a short-term perspective, I would just be concerned about the product delivery promises on Project Orion. I was very excited about the account-based marketing feature that they announced at Summit just about 2 weeks ago. And so that would be the one thing I would have customers kind of watch out for is from a product delivery perspective, are those timelines still going to be what they are now with the deal heat kind of going on? Also from a pricing perspective, really as a former Marketo customer, I really like the flexibility of having these kind of annual renewal terms and kind of favorable pricing based on the bundles that you buy. So I would definitely say that if you're a current customer and you're in that renewal cycle or about to be in the renewal cycle, my recommendation definitely is to kind of help accelerate that process. And then if you're a prospect too, I definitely do feel that Marketo is a fantastic product. I truly enjoyed using it as a customer. And I would definitely say that it's still definitely a great option for you. But I would definitely kind of caution on not only looking at the SaaS software pricing, although that's really important, a lot of times customers kind of fail to realize that the services and the implementation side, to make sure that you do your due diligence, talk to other customers. You can work with, some industry experts too, or call us and we can help you kind of scope out, kind of what you might need from a services perspective. And but I think that from a customer and prospect impact perspective, it's look at the pricing, get your renewal cycles in, and be prepared for product delays.
Yeah, I think too, if I can just jump in here, that from a customer perspective, one of the things that, Cindy, as you point out, is Vista is known for, they have a very staunch approach when they acquire an organization. They have a standard SOP, as they call it, where they go in and very much methodically go through the organization from all aspects, sales and marketing, looking to create efficiencies there. Certainly in Marketo's case, where they have been operating at a loss and not profitable, they're going to be looking at the bottom line and how do they fix that. That could significantly impact their research and development and how the products are packaged. So looking from a customer's perspective, like you said, absolutely, pay close attention to the renewal contract and whatnot and the terms, because again, those short-term contracts may go away, but I think also from what's coming down the pipe from a development standpoint, it's something to take a long, hard look at, because there could be some significant slowdown in their innovation. They certainly have a great platform and a lot of solutions, and one of the leaders out there from a marketing automation perspective. You look at it to something like Eloqua, where before it was acquired, before Eloqua was acquired, they were pretty comparable, and I think what Oracle's done with Eloqua, nobody's quite sure. They keep it pretty quiet, and certainly Marketo has made some significant progress, and that may not continue on this path.
I think this is Scott. I think those are both really insightful, and since the two of you know marketing automation best, I'm going to leave that expertise to you. But the thing that I'll say about this is, what I find interesting here is maybe what would have been the impact to customers if this deal didn't take place. I mean, we heard about a month ago or so, right about the time of their annual conference, that they were looking and on the block and had hired somebody to help them go and find an acquisition, try to make this deal happen. And we also heard that Microsoft, there were rumors about Microsoft possibly being a play for them. But I think the reason that Phil needed a deal like this, Phil Fernandez, by the way, the CEO, I think the reason they needed a deal like this is because, quite frankly, it's hard to be that only, one of the few standalone enterprise-ready marketing automation platforms out there. I mean, there was such a run on these guys and their competitors. You've alluded to Oracle, and there's, Salesforce picked up a couple, and Adobe picked up Neolane, and so their competition, quite frankly, when your bread and butter is marketing automation in this way, and you don't have other products essentially to go and pay the bills, you can't do some of the kind of aggressive pricing that I think a lot of their competitors were doing. If you looked at what was happening in the market, the Adobes can afford to drop their price in any particular deal just to go keep Marketo out of that deal. And so I think, while it's not impact to customers specifically, I think it's impact to prospects here. That maybe there might even be more customers coming from Marketo because of this, because specifically maybe they can actually now compete on that basis where they were losing a lot of those deals before because they just couldn't be as aggressive with their pricing. Maybe this helps that. What are your thoughts, Ray? And silence.
And Ray's on mute.
Yeah, I'm actually on mute. Sorry about that. It was a little noisy here. But one of the things I think is important, the question you asked, what happens if they weren't being acquired? I think the other question to ask as well related to that is the fact that if customers who are happy with Marketo or prospects that are in the middle of evaluating Marketo, I think it's going to be important for them to think about how to put the commitments that have been made and put some teeth into some contracts. So I think it's going to be important for customers to think about, as a long-term play, do I go with Marketo? Is it going to be since it's not going to be part of a bigger suite for the next 2 to 3 years, does that mean you keep the integrations? Do you think about different ways and platforms? Because what's happening in the marketing automation space is massive consolidation. We're down to maybe 7 to 10 viable players. And what that means is over time, the battle is not really for marketing automation, but really for the revenue optimization, the sales effectiveness piece. And so it's a question of what that larger roadmap looks like. And so I think customers should take a look to understand, hey, are they going to be better off with an Adobe base or an Oracle base or a Salesforce base or maybe a Microsoft base if they buy someone else out of that market. And so I think those are impacts to people's overall app strategy. So.
And Ray and Cindy, again,
sure.
if I can also just add from one good thing about going private equity versus being acquired by another vendor like a Microsoft or even SAP, which is really what I was thinking would have happened, is that the customers that actually have a best-of-breed marketing tech stack, then a lot of the concerns around being forced into cross-sold, all these different clouds, different types of stacks within Salesforce or SAP or Microsoft, that concern sort of is somewhat mitigated. So I just wanted to bring up that point as well.
No, great point. Scott, on your end?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, when you look at what happens to some of the innovation, and I think we'll talk next. Maybe this is a good segue into talking about the future roadmap for Vista Ownership. So maybe we go there next. But as a quick lead into that, I'd say is, you do tend to look at some of the larger platform vendors also stymieing the innovation a little bit. I think we could probably poke holes and criticize a few of the larger ones where some innovative companies tend to go to die, or I would like to criticize and say that in the past. So as much as we want to say about Vista, let's keep in context that there were other options here that may not have been as lovely. But why don't we do that? Maybe we can talk about the kind of future roadmap with Vista. Who knows them best and wants to speak to that topic? Ray, do you want to talk a little bit about Vista and their traditional their stance?
Yeah, Vista is one of those companies, as Cindy was mentioning, that has done a great job in terms of getting returns to their investors. And what that means is they squeeze out things. Now, there are good sides and bad sides of PE ownership, right? PE firms go in and say, oh, my God, why in the world did you waste the money on all that sales and marketing? Well, we had to grow to show the market that, we were a growth company. Well, you can let down a little bit on that. So, conference might not be as cool. Salespeople might not get the same perks and comp plans. And so people start to leave in those areas. And then they go to R&D and it's like, you don't need to do that right away. That's, you're moving too fast. Push that platform out. Go reuse something else. Build something in a different way. And then product development gets slowed down a little. So there's that type of PE firm, and then there's other firms that say, hey, look, let's pump you up for growth, right? We think there's a better market out there. Let's get you sold again. We'll take you back to the market, IPO, or get you be sold out, and that's a different philosophy. What's interesting is Vista is using that language today, but its track record is the former, not the latter, and so that's what there's a lot of concern among not just customers we've talked to, not just partners, but also people watching the market overall. And so I think that's the part where it's driving it. Now, there are some interesting things. I mean, they hit big, with big machines and being able to flip it to Oracle, and they're like, oh, maybe we can do this again. But it's the track record with Tivco, it's like, it's kind of interesting. You're not pumping enough money there. The track record with Appian is awful. All the acquisitions there have just been a disaster. And then the track record with MediaOcean, that's going to be interesting. We'll see if they do something and grow that. The CVent folks are just upset, and so you see a scattering of this, but maybe they're going to take the big machine mentality, and it might be better. I think that's where people are hoping. I think time remains to be seen, but the track record is not positive.
Cindy, you had some conversations with some of the Vista portfolio clients, didn't you?
I did. Actually, Vista, because they've made some big plays in the marketing tech space too. And also I've spoken to a couple of other portfolio companies of theirs in different spaces. And definitely the message seems to be, and again, I'm pure speculation here, is that in the past, what is happening is that they really ramp down on expenses, as Ray just mentioned. So it's sort of the sales and marketing expense. They actually tend to do a lot of psychological testing and personality testing employee bases, and so therefore they tend to try to reduce their kind of talent expenses from that perspective by recruiting younger, less experienced team members. That seems to be another trend that they have, and so really it's yet to be seen. I mean, this Marketo makes it fun and makes it interesting and exciting from a marketing to marketers, and I really hope that doesn't get impacted too much under Vista.
Great. So, Cathy, how about any thoughts from you on that same line of thinking?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier, I mean, Vista, it prides itself, everything that I've read in the digging, and again, this is speculation on my part, I haven't actually spoken to them, on the operational improvements. And, how do they look at the organization, delve into the business processes, and make it so that it is more profitable? And that's going to mean impact on, marketing, sales, improving sales effectiveness. They're going to look at R&D, how is the product packaged? What's the pricing? What really needs to be invested in? We were talking earlier about the different options for people and whether they're going to go suite or best of breed. There is such growth in the marketing automation platform sector. You look at the number of companies that have evolved over the last couple of years, and not big ones like Marketo and like Eloqua and ExactTarget, more of the specialized subsets. And a lot of organizations are going down that path because people are afraid to bite into the big marketing automation. So they start with something smaller, like a sail through, where it's a very specific subset. So I think there's an opportunity there too for Marketo customers potentially who, to sit back and look at what they're not using with Marketo and say, hey, there's another opportunity, especially if Vista, true to form, goes in and starts streamlining things and cutting back, and we see less innovation and advancement with the product moving forward.
That makes a lot of sense. Let's get to the fourth part, which is really talent retention. And I think that's an area where people are concerned. Like, there's certain folks that are great customer success managers. Some people are great, service folk, a sales engineer, maybe it's top talent in terms of marketing or products. And so there's some talent retention concerns that typically happen here. Cathy, I'll start with you, see if you've got any, and work our way to Scott and then Cindy.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the biggest risks with Marketo. They've had a lot of long-term employees. They've had a lot of people who've been there from the get-go. They've been there from the tighter times through the IPO, and it's particularly in their R&D and their engineering area. So I think there's a huge risk there that if, again, back to our earlier point about how Vista can potentially come in and start streamlining and cutting back, that and if the reviews on things like Glassdoor or any indication of companies that have worked with Vista, there could be a real hit to the talent pool at Marketo, and that would have a significant impact. I mean, I'm forgetting his name, the gentleman that came over from IBM, who, great leader, a lot of vision, really looking to shape Marketo. And maybe this was all part of the plan for him, but I see those who are going to actually execute and build the product, especially when it comes to something like Project Orion, when they're moving into the IoT world. That could be a huge risk.
That's crazy. So, Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I think nothing, specific here. I know they've done a pretty good job building up a good group of folks over there. I think in general, what happens is there's two possible causes of the folks leaving. One is they don't like what they see when Vista. Well, three things. One is Vista cleans house, and they could potentially make some changes, and especially at the top, I don't see that being unlikely. Second, people don't like what they see. This is not the company that they, wanted to work for, sort of things, because of the changes. I think that happens in the medium term. But what happens in the kind of nearest term is the competitors pounce, and so especially in the sales side, they want to go out and kind of get their best folks, and kind of the uncertainty of this leads folks out. And what I wonder also is, given that they were public before and folks had shares and they might have, been vested and all that kind of stuff. I'm not certain what happened with all of that, given that this was a complete cash buyout. So if there's any more real incentive to stay on, I would assume some have some handcuffs, but I'm not sure what happens to kind of the masses there. So, but I think those are the real reasons for leaving, and that'll be yet to be seen, I suppose.
Got it. Cindy, are there any areas around the customer side where customers should be, worried about or write into their contracts or do something different as a talent retention issue?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. I definitely look at service level agreements, and for example, if you try to get it included in your contracts around a service level, sort of a response time, et cetera, make sure that you have that customer support after the transaction. I think that part is really important. And then from a talent perspective, I agree with everything that Cathy and Scott just mentioned. I think the competitors are going to be just pouncing on the top talent, but I'm sure that hopefully Vista has some retention programs available for the key leadership and top talent, particularly on the product side of the company.
No, that's a great point, Cindy. I've had 23 resumes come to me from Marketo folks in the last 24 hours. So it's about average for major M&As.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
One way to check, is to look at LinkedIn and see how many Marketo folks have updated their profile. It's a quick way to figure out what's going on. But I'll turn it back to Scott on competitors. So.
Yeah, so I think that's really the interesting and fun stuff, and where us as analysts, where we all kind of get to go crazy in terms of postulating what kind of the future holds here, what happens. I mean, one really big question is, if Microsoft was interested before, which I think those rumors are not so, to be honest, not so unsolid. If there was interest there and this actually became a bit of a bid, then what was its plans? And so what is Vista's plan with this in terms of, when you talk about what happens with the competition, we've seen the Demandor acquisition yesterday. We've seen this notion of commerce and marketing automation and content and even CRM all kind of starting to come together. So what is, what is Vista's big plan here? I doubt that it was just to try to, get in there and kind of make a quick sale. I have a feeling they're trying to go piece something together and make a real player out of this, something that certainly Marketo couldn't do before on its own. So in terms of, I think the competitors are really just kind of waiting and wondering what is the plan right now. I think they would love to see kind of some of the predictions here, which is that they kind of stop innovating and that it affects their ability to kind of be as out there in the market in terms of innovation. I think that the competitors would love to see that, but I think what we're probably going to see is them piece together something that is somewhat unique. And Cindy, I'd love to hear from you. I myself enjoyed reading your analysis on this yesterday or the day before. By the way, Cathy wrote something on digitalclaritygroup.com as well. But Cindy, I thought you had some really good ideas about what Vista might be trying to build here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Scott. When I look at Vista and the recent kind of wave of acquisitions all around this marketing or tech space, I think it began 3 years ago with the first Lanyon. It was a event marketing company too, and then of course the big news about Cvent just about a month and a half ago. And they also own some media ad tech company, Media Ocean. And I think that if they actually do this correctly, and if this is the plan, then I think it's really exciting for marketers and for future customers, is that if they try to integrate the physical and the digital marketing aspect. This has traditionally been an area where it's been very much a headache for us marketers in the past, where you have all your digital insights from the customer engagement, the touch points, but really when customers are going to physical events, and it's always been a bit more of a manual process where you have to try to find ways to integrate the physical event data into your marketing automation platform, and then you want to look at what people are clicking on from an ads perspective. If actually Vista has a bigger plan of actually integrating all of these technologies or finding a way to create that kind of end-to-end customer engagement, I think that could be really exciting, and that could be the innovation play. And I could really see that becoming very impactful and meaningful for customers and marketers.
Cathy, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I just don't see, with all that Marketo has to offer, I don't see this as being an opportunity for Vista to come in and tear it apart and break it down and sell it off for pieces, so to speak, as sometimes that it does, is once the company has been sort of restructured. I love the idea. I agree with you, Scott, Cindy's analysis, and sort of foreshadowing on what the plans are to build a bigger juggernaut, which was a great word, of an offering from a marketing automation perspective. Makes a lot of sense. They're still missing, I think, a couple of pieces, and I'm not sure, delving into some of the other companies, I'm not sure that they all align well. Somebody's going to fall by the wayside because there's some overlap and whatnot, but if they're able to pull that off, then yeah, that would definitely give them a leap forward and give customers something to look forward to.
Yeah, Cathy and Scott, it's Cindy. I have one more point, because someone actually just put in a question about this around the e-commerce platforms. And I think that definitely could come into play as well. So I didn't realize that Vista also owns an e-commerce platform, but that's part of the synergy of what you could see if SAP had a good play with this one. Because all the marketers and CMOs, and this is my past life as of 2 weeks ago too, is we were looking for that end-to-end customer insight. And so if everything from the buying behavior, from the shopping behavior can translate into the marketing automation, where you can then provide better promotions, better nurture tracks, and then you marry in the physical aspect of it, the physical events, and then you have the media side, and that is really interesting. So I think that definitely, to answer that person's question, Steve, I do think that is a huge play, and having the e-commerce side incorporated.
And I think Salesforce just jumped forward, a big step forward in that with the Demandware play, because they have the other aspects of it from a marketing automation perspective.
So one of the interesting things is this is really a play for commerce, right? When we think about the future CRM and CX, right, none of this matters unless I get a click-through or conversion rate optimization. And so if people start looking at the marketing budgets in that way, the thousands of marketing tech, ad tech companies that are out there, it's going to be an interesting play to see what happens and what gets consolidated. I agree with everybody on the call that the Demandware Salesforce piece was, making sure commerce fit into the last piece of CRM and CX. And there's some interesting things, I think, both in Cindy's analysis and in conversations with other investors, that the Vista portfolio companies, and going back to the question that was been asked here by Chris, it's a question of other real integrations that could happen between Marketo, Cvent, Mediaocean, Kibo. I mean, those are things that people are looking at as, are they going to do that? If they do that as a Marketo customer, I would be worried as hell, because what they're going to do is saddle Marketo with the debt and use that acquisition, have Marketo pick up the portfolio companies and keep saddling Marketo with debt until it grows out the rest of the portfolio. That's a playbook common in the PE world, and something to watch for if they do it that way. If they take a lighter approach, which is they streamline the sales teams, do really good cross-sell, then that might not be okay, and it might not really hurt customers too much, and then focused on real good integrations between these areas. But I think it's kind of rare for portfolio companies or for PE firms to take that portfolio approach. They typically leave a lot of those companies alone unless they want to bring them together, saddle them with some debt, and then give everybody an exit along the way. And so we'll know that in probably the next six months, which direction they're headed. I know we're close to time. I want to get to some of the questions that are here, and we'll try to address as many of them. I'm going to put the questions out there, and then if anybody here on the call wants to jump in, jump in. We have a question from Gabrielle, and she asked us questions between the current ratio between existing customer base and growth with new customers, upselling in terms of revenue. What does Vista expect in that respect? Any of you can take that, whether the customer base is growing faster or is this a maintenance base. I think that's basically another way to ask that question. Scott, Cathy, Cindy, what's your opinion? We can't speak for Vista, but we'll make our best guess.
Right. Yeah, I certainly don't know what their expectations are, but I think one thing that certainly was, I think, again, back to the point that I made earlier, Marketo was having to do a lot of things to stay competitive. Dropping their price wasn't really that as much of an option for them. And by the way, I think Phil learned the hard way that going public stinks, right? But one of the things that they were doing is they had a lot of just kind of yearly, annual, single year renewal contracts, which, to be honest, isn't that smart. I mean, you should be, what you're looking for is longer term recurring revenue. So I think with the 4,600 odd customers they have, I don't know what the mix is of those who are in single-year renewal contracts, but I would imagine that one of the things that Vista looks to go and do is to go get much more certainty in that space by trying to go lock in some longer-term contracts with folks and actually make sure that the revenue that they have is safe. That's one thing that I'd imagine. I also think then that in terms of kind of future revenue and future opportunities, again, now they can be a lot more aggressive in their pricing. They can go after others where they maybe couldn't necessarily do that before, at least stay competitive, if not being more aggressive. And I think that's going to really help. I think it's going to really help their future prospects as well.
Cathy, Cindy, anything to add?
Yeah, Ray, it's Cindy. I'll just share that, I've been a customer for many years, and I go to Summit almost every year, and I definitely see the growth in the customer side, and Marketo's really made a conscious effort to grow the enterprise customer base. So you'll see, these are public companies that they tout in their marketing too. It's GE, CA, a lot of these kind of bigger enterprise class customers. And if you look at their pricing models, it's really based on number of contacts and emails, et cetera. I'm again, purely assumptive here that they have great customer growth, and I definitely see that larger customer base, with the enterprise class when I'm visiting at Summit and talking to some of them. So I think that part is good. I agree with Scott. I think really on the SMB side, we had those 1-year renewals. I don't think that would be the case on the enterprise side. But definitely, that is part of the Vista playbook. It is going to lock you in for much longer term contracts. So customers, again, be prepared for that.
Okay, Cathy, anything you want to add, or I'm going to jump to the next question?
No, I actually, I hate to do this, but I got to hop off to another call. So thank you so much. I leave all the audience in very capable hands with Scott, Cindy, and Ray, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Cathy, for being here. Okay, we've got 2 more questions real quick. How fast will the marketing automation market consolidate from an analyst perspective? This is coming from Gabrielle. Scott, Cindy, want to start?
Well, I guess I'll go first quickly, which is that it has been consolidating pretty significantly. I mean, we saw a long run on marketing automation platforms over the course of the past couple of years, and there are a few holdouts. There are those who decided to go take the public route, and it was Marketo until recently, and HubSpot, and then there's a few others, Acton, and a couple of others who are still kind of hanging out there. But I think that if you look, the question is kind of where will the consolidation come? And we've seen a lot of activity recently with private equity coming in. I mean, whether it's Sitecore, who's bought by private equity, there are many others. They're really coming in and playing a strong hand in these, and so I think that could happen. But that's not really consolidation, right? That's acquisitions and market movement, but it's not really consolidation per se. So I think the big players who are left to go come back in is, I think certainly Microsoft has expressed interest in come back into the commerce and content space, but they've had a lot of opportunities. I had my speculations about Demandware yesterday, whether that might have been on their in their eyes. But so the question is kind of who's left for them to go and consolidate with. And there's not that much more in my mind, at least at the larger enterprise side, much more place for that to happen. I think in the mid-market space, you could see some more of those. You could see more episerver sort of size companies sprout up where there's some consolidation there. But I don't think there's probably a whole lot left except for the major players who need to kind of fill in. I, like Cindy, was really surprised that SAP wasn't the one announced as the acquirer here. I think they overestimate their ability to build stuff from scratch, but that's just my take. Cindy, what are your thoughts there?
Thanks. Yeah, I know that on the SAP side that they were launching hybrid marketing, and that they were trying to build out some of that capabilities, but definitely that the marketing automation is a gap. I think from marketing automation and consolidation basis, it's inevitable. It has to happen. Customers are demanding a lot more insight now. It's all a very data-driven marketing world now. People want to know exactly what all the buyer behavior is. So everything from what they're clicking on, what are they consuming, what are they actually looking at from a from a content marketing perspective, and then all the way through to how does that tie into revenue, so you need that tight CRM integration. So really, I think that it's inevitable that the marketing automation vendors, it's getting more and more difficult to stay independent because the demands of the CMO and the marketing departments of companies wanting and needing more insight into their buyers.
Wow. No, I would add real quickly that I think it's important for folks to understand that this market is much more dynamic than people realize, and there are a lot of opportunities for exits, and it's just a natural course of attrition. And there are newer technologies. So the technologies that that Marketo has are rapidly being replaced by the way new stacks are being built. And so I think you're going to see a lot of shifts happen in the marketplace. But the core pieces need to be there. What's interesting is SAP probably should have bought these guys, or Microsoft probably should have bought these guys. And I agree with Scott's analysis that ultimately the Hybris team probably thought they could build it themselves and bypass this, even though the SAP board has had talks about this in the past. And the Microsoft team, with the acquisition of Marketing Pilot, they've got a strong development lead. Jujar probably also thought he could build this as well. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is. So we've got another question here that's kind of saying, marketing automation firms selling out in general, and is this specific to Marketo and why? But before we do that, we just put out a poll here on what is your opinion of Marketo post Vista, and with most of the attendees responding, we've got 46% concerned, 48% concerned, 14% slightly worried, 36% not sure, and 4% feeling good. So I think there's general concern here among the people that have attended. So let's do one last question, and then we can tell people how to get in contact with us if they have additional questions or sign up for different services that we do provide. So let's do that real quick. Cindy, with a wrap-up question on are people selling out, and then your final thoughts, and then Scott, same thing for you.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. I don't want to call it selling out necessarily. Like I said, it's the market conditions are just getting tougher and tougher for them to stay independent. And really, I sincerely hope that what we talked about earlier, what I wrote in my analysis around trying to create this kind of customer platform juggernaut, I really hope that does happen, or at least at certain aspects of it include in the integration, because I know that for my former life, I would have loved to have that physical to digital insight of all of my customers and my buyers. So that is something that I truly hope that will happen.
Cool. Scott, you're in. Final thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. I think, look, your poll was, really well worded, even in the answer options, and it looks like 97% are either not sure or negative about it. I think that's usually the case after something like this. But, to be honest, I think what probably happens is it all works out okay. I mean, if you're a customer, don't go jumping off the roof yet. I think in general, there's usually a lot of mayhem right around these, and folks like us get on the phone and run webinars and write analysis and all that kind of stuff and talk about potential doomsday, scenarios and all that. But overall, I think that to answer the specific question, are marketing automation vendors selling out? I mean, look, ultimately, these are all businesses, right? And founded by folks who are looking ultimately for an exit. And it just didn't work out that marketing automation tends to be the center of gravity in these experience management plays. They tend to be kind of more periphery. And I think that Marketo has tried a strategy where they wanted to be the center of gravity. And maybe they will. Maybe Vista will prove that that's possible. So far, no one else has. Usually, it's kind of tangential capabilities built around some sort of a content play, even a commerce play, a CRM play, etc. What I think could be really interesting here, if they were to stay independent, we didn't talk about this before, but if they were to stay somewhat independent, and Vista allows them to stay independent, I've always felt like marketing automation actually wasn't ever named properly. Number one, the marketing side of it, I think this sort of capability can be used far, further and beyond a typical marketing remit, right? It's not just to try to get to prospects. I think you could be using these sort of functions and capabilities to be doing a lot more, keeping in contact with actual customers, and combining that with sales and service and support and all of those things, and have it be used a lot more widely. That's one thing too. Is I think that the second part of the marketing automation is the notion of automation. Maybe it's augmentation, but I'm not sure that it's automation. Who really wants to just purely automate marketing function? That's when we just kind of tick people off and lose our audience to the very degree when we lose that personality. And Ray, you talk a lot about the kind of hyper personalization of things. And so anyway, I guess the point is the future will tell, I suppose. I don't think that they're selling out. I don't think anybody is selling out here. I think ultimately it's just about kind of how can you make things even more compelling when they're packaged up with other offerings. And so whether they stay independent and they continue to have partnerships, or whether they do that themselves, I think that remains to be seen. But I don't think anybody should go jumping off a bridge, and I don't think this is going to have huge immediate impact to anyone.
Okay. No, great. No, thanks for the wrap-up. I think for those following, you can get additional details. You can find on the digitalclaritygroup.com blog. Follow Cathy at Cathy McKnight. Follow Scott Liewehr at SLWEHR, which I always spell incorrectly. I'll hit myself up for that. And follow Cindy and her blog and analysis, especially to prospects and customers, at Cindy_ZHOU on the ConstellationR.com site. And feel free to follow me if you care to at RWANG0. So thank you all very much. Get ready for a series of these webcasts. I think we're going to see a lot more of this year. This is quite one of those years. And thanks to the partnership here with Digital Clarity Group. And thank you very much. So Scott, take care.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.